All right, well, welcome to the Homeowner Roundtable of Net Zero Energy Renovations. Real quick, I want to say a huge thanks to the Net Zero Energy Conference planning partners. Many who have been there since the beginning: Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association, Michigan Geothermal Energy Association, the Michigan Energy Efficiency Contractors Association, and Architectural Resource, who jumped in last year to help us with the second event. A huge thanks to them, and a big thanks to our session sponsors who've got products, they've got processes, they've got ideas to help make net zero real. Mitsubishi for air source heat pump systems, Enertech for both geo and air source, and then Water Furnace for geothermal water heating, you name it, as well as our friends over at Serve2 Build Equinox makes high performance ventilation systems that are the most energy efficient. And then both DTE and Michigan Saves providing some different resources that we're going to talk about later for financing, funding, and providing rebates for net zero projects. This session is approved for 1 hour continuing education units, GBCI, BPI, and actually this is also one of our monthly realtor sessions. So it is approved for the Michigan Realtor license, and I hope realtors will stick around for the conversation after. And it is pending approval for American Institute of Architects, which may make it applicable to your state-based design or contractor license. We're going to be talking to 5 homeowners, including myself, about some lessons learned in making our homes zero energy and what some of the challenges and barriers are throughout this session. And so just to give you some definitions, so we're all clear, net zero is a home or a building that generates at least as much energy, if not more, as it consumes or uses over the course of the year. And I don't mean electricity, I mean energy. So total energy, if there's gas involved, that's important to know. And the other thing is that it's a wild west out there. As I just said, a lot of people are offsetting all their electrical use, especially in the cold weather climates. But 50 to 80% sometimes can be gas usage. So then, are you really truly net zero? And so, also, because it's such a new thing, there's a lot of misunderstanding about who's achieving it and how. And so, we recommend the use of third-party verification to show that you're actually achieving net zero and your projects are. Passive House, one of the most aggressive ones, requiring oversizing your systems to also make up for the utility line losses and carbon emissions. Contrast that with Lead Zero, who actually just wants you to offset your usage with renewable energy credits, with community solar or with on-site solar or some sort of combination. International Living Future Institute requires that you actually can be resilient during a 2-week outage and be all electric through their zero energy certification there on the bottom. And then both our program, the Zero Energy Capable, and the National Green Building Standard are more of a project walk-away program where you do a project and then walk away, and then it's kind of ready to be zero without minimal efforts for clients. So those are different programs that you should check out, and we have a whole session on those. I'm real excited to introduce our speakers here today. Amy Myers is a coach, consultant, and business owner, and Mike Baker is a writer, historian, craftsman, and permaculturist. And their project, after living on Drury Lane for 16 years, they started looking for a new house that had space to allow them to eventually work from home. Who would have thought? Very popular. 3 years later, we discovered that that their dedication to growing and making their own food, entertaining in the community which they belonged to, was stronger than they had realized. They were already in a perfect place, and renovating their home gave them the space that they needed to both maintain historic charm and the street use, as well as practice ecologically what they believe in. They're committed to staying right there to participate in the support of Drury Lane traditions that have become the hallmark of a true neighborhood, while realizing their dream of home that they know to be a great lesson for us and hope to inspire others. Their goals are LEED Platinum, all electric, and zero energy capable. Can it be done in existing homes is the question. And then Josh Hass is an office professional with a love for nature, birding, and simply being outside. He and his family committed to going green, lowering their ever-growing utility costs. This included ditching the propane for a closed-loop geothermal heating and cooling system, and later adding a grid-tied solar system to generate their own power. Their long-term plan is to take advantage of battery storage when their current net metering contract expires in 2028. And Josh is very passionate about sharing his solar story with others to grow green energy and use it at the homeowner level. I'm also excited to announce our other speaker, Bart Ligens. He lives in Portage, Michigan with his wife and has moved here in 2004 from the Netherlands. Bart works as a public sector consultant and researcher, and his wife is in healthcare. Their 2 children recently moved out, so it should be easier to hit net zero. And in 2019, they started updating their 1950s ranch-style home. And in line with Bart's profession, he took on this project as a mission. The mission was aimed at improving comfort, health, indoor air quality, and reducing carbon footprint. His team got a team of contractors who worked on insulating, air sealing, rooftop solar, heat pump, installation, and ventilation. In 2020, the Michigan Energy Efficiency Contractors Association awarded his house the Project of the Year. The award showcases a typical Michigan ranch that can go net zero with results that are replicable on a large scale. And finally, I'm excited to have Dale Hulst, semi-retired after 30 years in commercial HVAC engineering and business leadership. He decided to pursue his net zero at his own existing 66-year-old home in Grand Rapids, Michigan, throughout a staggered approach across a few years. In fact, it's still a work in progress. Dale will articulate the challenges in the process and discuss current status in pursuing the goal, as well as lessons learned. His project features an air source heat pump, solar weatherization, and induction. Dale has acted as the general contractor and to some degree installer on his own project, but also coordinates with other pros. And then also, we're going to be talking about my particular project with any time available as well. So I hope to share a little bit more about what I'm learning. And at this point, Amy and Mike, I will turn it off to you. Why are you doing this? What's the purpose?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Amy Myers, and this is my husband, Mike Baker.
Hello.
And yes, we reside at 631 North Drury Lane in Arlington Heights, Illinois, northwest suburb of Chicago. Just to give you kind of step back and give you a sense of what our renovation has involved. Essentially, it is about or was about taking a 1964 split level home, like many homes in the area. We had purchased it in 2000 and taking that home with that floor plan to achieve LEED Platinum certification. We actually moved out of the house in December 2019 because what we were doing was so massive we could not live there while doing it. And we actually fortunately lived just 24 streets or 24 houses up the street, still on Drury Lane, which was great to be able to oversee it. So we kicked off in January 2020. We added space essentially, folks, by going up, putting a master suite on top of the existing ground floor and reconfiguring the whole floor plan just to be more functional. We constructed a garage terrace as well as extended the foundation just a bit to add a front porch because we actually never had a real front door. So it's very nice to welcome folks through a porch, and not just a porch, but a front door. We actually finished the house structure part of the renovation in December 2020, moved back in early January 2021, are still kind of managing that punch list that is quite typical of most renovations. And to achieve LEED Platinum certification, we will be taking our final step, which we're really excited about this year, to install a very robust landscaping program that essentially builds on what we've already been doing sustainably in our yard for many years. Brett, if you want to go to the next slide. Awesome. Yeah. So I love that question of why, because honestly, when people look at what we've done, a lot of folks probably might scratch their heads and say, with that existing floor plan, might it have been easier to move? You did quite a lot. Yes, we did do quite a lot. Well, We actually honestly did work with a realtor to try to find a home that was just a bit bigger with a little bit more flexible floor plan. We did see ourselves, and I do work full-time from home, and we did see that happening over time. And we also love to grow and make food and have family and friends over for homemade meals and good conversation. So we just wanted a home that worked for us in that way and would give us that flexible floor plan for processing our own produce, gathering people together, and of course, working at home. And so after 3 years of patiently looking and finding that no other house we looked at seemed quite right, we sort of stepped back. And one day I said to my husband, Mike, I said, okay, I think the universe might be telling us there's a reason that nothing looks quite right. And yeah, we realized the reason why we didn't want to move. And the reason, community. So we live on a street that knows each other's names in a day and age where many of us are more lost in our cell phones than knowing who's sitting next to us on the bus or train or wherever we might be. We live on a street where people help each other out, where we regularly socialize. People on our street have gone on vacations together. We're like a family. And so during the pandemic and quarantine living, I've known a lot of people who've discovered their neighbors for the first time. And we feel really fortunate on Drury Lane in Arlington Heights that living as good neighbors has been the norm for many years. So it was kind of like, how can we leave that? Brett, if you can go to the next slide. So once we decided to stay, it was about getting clear on what ideas would become our project philosophy. And the first pillar, like I said, is community, because the street we live on and the community of Arlington Heights inspired us to stay and renovate. And we want a home that is conducive to bringing people together, both inside and outside. That's a big purpose behind the home for us. The second pillar, as you'll see, there's functionality, which has really been about studying our own behaviors and in partnership with our design team and contractors, renovating and adding onto our floor plan so that it fits how we live day to day versus designing something into the floor plan because it's on trend. And we really wanted the house to support the healthy habits we're cultivating in our lives. And then finally, as we've been growing our for over 10 years in our garden, we were really inspired to renovate the full house structure in line with this value so that our home contributes to a better environment for a local community and for our planet overall. Thus, sustainability became the third pillar of our philosophy. And we selected the LEED rating system to help us achieve this, including obviously designing a home to be as energy efficient as possible or going to net zero. As we started to share the project with family and friends and neighbors and colleagues, many were inspired and encouraged us to share it more broadly. So we named our project the Happy Below Project, launched a website, and we enjoy sharing our experience and learnings in forums like this.
Thank you, Amy. We'll hear from you again here soon. I'm going to turn it over to Josh Haas to ask why. Why did you do this?
Yeah, it's really simple. I really became fed up with hearing peers and people talk about how they're environmentally conscious and care. And for us, we wanted to put our money where our mouth was. And we made a conscious decision to forego improvements on our simple ranch, like updating the kitchen and some other things that are pretty costly, and instead using the value of our property during these times of very inflated home values. We took some of that value and put it into going green. And so we had already gone with geothermal. That was the first step. We really wanted to get rid of that propane burden. And so that meant that with that gone, our house is entirely run off electric. We have no fuel. And the next step was a few years ago going grid tied solar. And so now we are technically net zero, creating more than what we need over a 12-month period. And it's become quite a story that we love to share with people and showcase that it's absolutely doable and the time is now. So to keep things simple, that's it, Brett.
Thank you, Josh. We'll catch back up with you in a second, and I'm going to hand it off to Dale.
All right, I've got some what mixed in with my why here, so we're going to go fast through some slides. So why am I doing this? Always believed in energy stewardship. Spent 30 years at a large commercial HVAC manufacturer. Had the privilege of starting a team that did lots of modifications and enhancements to commercial units, including energy recovery wheels and rooftops and free cooling on air-cooled chillers. So I've gotten used to energy modeling and payback calculations and that kind of stuff. Been kind of a science geek, so the science of climate change has always made sense to me as I've read about it in Scientific American and places like that. But wasn't super motivated to take action until Christmas of 2015 when my daughter gave me the book you see there, and kind of gave me the push to realize that this is an urgent issue. If we get beyond 3 degrees, we're in big trouble as the ecosystems of the world and human civilization comes under threat. Again, past 4, 5, 6 degrees, we're in big trouble. So anyway, that was the motivation and kind of the thing that pushed me to say I want to be part of this transition to a sustainable world. So next slide. So first thing we did is at the time bought enough blocks of solar gardens to cover our load. Next slide. And shortly after that, I joined a project that our church has called the Climate Witness Project that deals with energy stewardship and advocacy. And one of the things we did in that program was learned about what it looks like to address our own carbon footprint. And for the typical American, that's transportation is the biggest piece of it. And then home heating and cooling is the next biggest. And then home electricity, food, and stuff we buy are the other 3 pieces. So those 5 pieces are kind of the bulk of our footprint. But the bigger picture yet is that our own personal footprint is only about 40% of the issue. And that leads to the next slide. If you want to address the other 60% of the issue, we really need to be thinking about policy at a national, state, and local level. I got involved with this citizens lobbying group and have learned a lot about kind of the policy side of this, working with them. Next slide. 2018, we bought a used Volt and love it. You can see the big cargo van in the back there. My wife uses for a ministry that she's involved with. I'm keeping my eye out for when cargo vans are going to be available. EV looks like maybe next year, the following year, Ford will have one. Eager to be fully electrified there also. Next slide. So the first thing we did on the house, 2019, after kind of researching a bit what might make sense, contacted a local firm, Advanced Installation Technology, who recommended foaming my attic in, including the gables, including the vents. So it became an unvented attic. And that was a little bit of a challenge initially because I had spent time personally cutting holes and vents into it when I first moved in. But they convinced me it made sense, and it has. I've seen no sign of condensation, and it's roughly R40, cut my heating bill by about 1/3. And it's been a good move that really reduced the draftiness of the upstairs, made it more comfortable summer and winter. Next slide. So solar went on the roof this past fall, something I'd wanted to do for years. And had looked into it initially for my daughter's houses, which have better roofs than mine for solar. In the end, I wanted to do it myself. So we did it in all 3 of our places with solar winds here this fall. And this past Monday was actually a record day for the 3 of us. We like to kind of have this little competition and send each other a text of how many kilowatt hours we made on a given day. And we're pretty neck and neck in spite of my one daughter only has 8 panels. We have 14 in this house. But because of the orientation and the shading, you can see from the trees, her 8-panel system typically outperforms my 14-panel system. So the house makes a big difference on performance. And next slide. Just a month ago, finally I've been looking at this for over a year, got an air source heat pump installed. The technology in these is truly a game changer. Heat pumps have been around for decades, but they've typically not worked well below about 25 degrees, which is when you most need them in the wintertime. And there's a new technology in the compressor side that I'm pretty aware of from my work in HVAC that really is a game changer and makes these things make a lot of sense. And obviously it's a big piece of eliminating the house's carbon footprint. So on last slide, also went to induction. The big motivator here was watching indoor air quality. CO2 control was a problem with the gas range. And I'll show more about that in a few minutes. Thanks.
Thank you, Dale. I can only hope to someday have a solar competition with my kids at some point. That's really cool to hear. I look forward to that day. Bart is our final speaker here, and Bart, why did you make this commitment?
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Well, our house looks a little bit like Josh's, minus the 12 acres, I would say. Also a walkout ranch. Well, our motives were basically that we know we're going to stay in this house as long as we can. As far as we can control it. The house has a lot of memories. So the second one is I work out of my home, doing this since 2005. So I'm home all the time. So comfort is really an issue for me. I like, I had all kinds of issues going on. Maybe if you can show the next slide, I can elaborate a little bit. And show you, if you look at the top right, this is basically a little plan I drew up, and it's actually already a tip for everyone going ahead. Just draw down what your plan is on one page. I envisioned the top right, the desired situation, pretty down to earth. I want to live in a modern, comfortable, and healthy home. Health, also my daughter, when she was living here, suffering from terrible allergies. And I had a hunch, without knowing all the specifics, that our home was very leaky. And because I noticed if she was in other homes, it would clear up. And those homes were, I was guessing, more airtight. So that was also a motivator. The second one, energy efficiency, that was definitely a motivator. And thirdly, while we're doing this, let's also reduce our carbon footprint. So those were the three motivators. But on the left side, on the top, you can see what we were dealing with. We had a few issues. We had an oversized heating and cooling system. Our house was just not comfortable. We had uneven heating issues, and often when I was working, I was putting on a sweater, taking it off, putting it back on. So I had those things going on. We had hardly any insulation. I knew my HVAC equipment was aging, so that put a little bit more pressure on me to act. And thirdly, I knew I was burning natural gas, maybe not as bad as oil, but still it didn't feel very good. So these are our motivations and our plan. And if you show the last slide, the third slide, this is basically what we did. You can see on the right side, blower door testing. That was really helpful. We started, it wasn't even that leaky, but all the improvements made our home even more airtight. And the good news was, hey, Bart, you're now ready for a heat pump. So, hey, that was very interesting. So that started a whole new process. And we also installed a heat pump. It was a little tricky. I'm not an engineer, so I had to really be convinced that this would work. So our first winter was a little scary, but I can tell you it worked perfectly. And then we did all the other things. We insulated the walls. We really insulated the attic. We looked at ventilation, and we also put solar panels on the roof, which I think I became a little nerd too, because every day I like to look at those solar panels. Other people might think they're ugly, but I think they're beautiful. So that's our story in a nutshell.
Thank you, Bart. Well, welcome to my house here, where we broadcast all of our sessions. Green Home Institute finally is operating out of a Green Star certified, Pearl Platinum certified home. So it's good to be operating out of a place that our beliefs are being held up. And it was very important to me to make this conversion, to put my money where my mouth was. I think, as Josh had said, that, I'm out here talking about this as my day job. I should probably live in a Green certified home. It just makes a lot of sense. And so it was important to me to do that, and important to show that this can be done. And I'm going to talk about some financing mechanisms that I hope millions of people around our country can use to do this. If we can't find a way to help other people do this, then what value is any of this? So that's really important to me. And I think one of you actually made me kind of change what I was going to say. Look at this. I don't know if you can see this, but I had radon spikes And I work downstairs here, and my kid sleeps downstairs. And, I don't want lung cancer. A lot of stuff going around these days that are beating up on our lungs. So honestly, this was a health thing for me. That first and foremost, I'm at home all the time. I want to be healthy. I want to be comfortable. I want to build a focus. And then the zero carbon approach that we took is kind of second to that. I agree a little bit and disagree with Bart. I think my solar panels are super ugly. I do love looking at them and checking my app data and going out and staring at them, but I do think they're ugly, and I'm very glad that they're hidden from the road because I'm embarrassed by them in some ways. But I hope someday that we have more beautiful solar panels that work, just like the trees. Those are solar panels. Why can't we do that? So anyway, moving on here, I'll hand it off to Amy again to talk a little bit more about challenges. How'd you overcome them?
Be sure to check out all of our courses available online that you can watch anytime and anywhere to pick up your CEUs. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube to get weekly updates and stay up to date on green building science courses, webinars, and home tours. Thanks again.